Growing up with an alcoholic parent can leave lasting impacts on your mind, your body, your soul, and your emotions. If you are the adult child of an alcoholic, you may feel like you're stuck in survival mode, you're constantly anxious, you're overthinking everything, and it's really difficult for you to maintain happy and healthy relationships. But you may also find that it feels like you're kind of living two lives. The first life as the adult that you show up as in everyday life, and the inner child that still carries that past pain. I'm Corey. I'm a trauma-informed mind-body practitioner, and I work with adult children of alcoholics to help them come out of survival mode and start living a life on their terms. If you're watching this video and you feel like no matter what you do, you just cannot move forward, or that you are living two lives, as one as an adult, but two, feeling like you're acting like a child, I want to help you understand why that happens and then give you some practical, easy steps that you can implement today to help you finally move forward. Growing up with an alcoholic parent, like this does not just affect your childhood, it impacts your whole life. And it impacts something even deeper. It impacts who you truly are to your core. Many adult children of alcoholics that I have worked with, and including myself, we feel like we're living in these two worlds at once. You go to work, you take care of your family, you have your responsibilities, but deep down inside, your inner child is still running the show, even in ways that you don't even realize. That inner child is carrying the unmet needs, the fear, the pain that you developed from growing up in the environment of having an alcoholic parent. And working directly with adult children of alcoholics, I see this pattern repeating on a daily basis. And it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not a failing. You're not failing at life. It's just survival. So let's talk about, well, why is this happening in the first place? And if you've been around here for a little while, you know it always comes back to the nervous system. When you grow up in a high stress environment, which living with an alcoholic is extremely high stress, your survival response stays on high alert. And your survival response, this is your body, okay? So when I talk about the survival response, I'm talking about the natural reaction your body is having to a high stress or a scary environment. Because when we get faced with something threatening or that feels threatening to our safety or the safety of others, our body's natural survival response kicks in. It's not something that we have control over. It's evolution. It's something that's been in us for millions and millions. As long as we've been on this planet, it's in us. So when you're constantly in that high stress environment, when you're constantly in that unpredictable and that scary environment, your body is constantly in that high alert state. Because as a child, you learned that you had to be ready for anything. You had to be ready for when your parent would be pissed drunk, when would be the next explosion, when would be the next toxic argument, when would things get thrown and breaking, when would your parent fall and hurt themselves, when would you may have not had dinner or breakfast or lunch to eat or someone to look after your needs. And so as a child, you were constantly expecting something bad to happen, constantly on edge, constantly anticipating the next bad thing. And so when your body doesn't get a chance to turn off this survival response, what you end up with is a high level of stress hormones pumping through your body. And we're talking about cortisol and adrenaline. And I want you to reflect on a time now, like even as an adult, when you've been stressed and you can feel the stress pumping through your body. How on edge are you feeling? It's keeping you super agitated, super on edge, super alert, ready to respond to something that may happen. But over time, this doesn't just affect your body and your mind. It starts to impact every part of your life. So it starts to impact your relationships, your career, schools, how you are just showing up on a day-to-day basis. Because if you think about going back to that feeling of having that high level of stress pumping through your body, how are you reacting to the world around you when that's happening? How are you reacting to those around you when you're in that state, when you feel heightened? Well, you're snappy, you're irritable, you're not very nice to be around. And it's not because you are consciously choosing to be like that, it's because that's the body's natural inclined way to behave when we have all of these stress hormones pumping through our body. Because remember, the sole purpose of those stress hormones, the sole purpose of when the nervous system goes into fight or flight or dysregulation, is to keep you alert, is to keep you on edge, because that's the way you keep yourself safe in nature. So, of course, when you're edgy, when you're irritable, when you're snappy, it's a natural occurrence that happens when we're constantly in that state. And then a natural flow on from that is our partner gets pissed off, our kids get pissed off. They're wondering, why is my mom or my dad constantly shouting or constantly screaming or constantly really reactive to anything I do, or even in work, being reactive to the colleagues around you. So it's when we understand it, it makes so much sense. But when we're in it, when you're living in that stress response and you're not conscious and you don't understand what's going on in your body or in your mind, or the impact that that's having on your body and your mind, you kind of start to believe that that's just the type of person you are. Like for me, I truly used to believe that I was just a very reactive, angry person. And that was my identity. But that's truly not who I actually am now, deep down, that I've learned to regulate my nervous system to come back to a state of balance. That actually, behind all that, that's not who I am. And it's not who you are either. And so, if you are constantly living in this high stress state, or you've constantly got a high level of cortisol pumping through your body over a long period of time, you might start to notice a couple of things. You might notice you're anxious. You've got obsessive or intrusive thoughts. So for me, a big telltale sign that I'm like really, really dysregulated and that my nervous system is really out of balance is I get intrusive thoughts. And again, it's a reminder for me that now as I'm moving into this new season of life of about to become a mother for the first time, that I need to be very mindful that I know when I get dysregulated, when I've got a lot of stress hormone pumping through my body, that the intrusive thoughts are a telltale sign for me. And it's really good that I have that awareness because I can notice when they're starting to happen and do something about it. But for someone who's not conscious or aware or doesn't understand the nervous system or understand what's going on in their own body, those intrusive thoughts can be even more scary than what they are when they happen when you have that awareness, because they're still horrible when I get them. But I'm very aware in my mind, okay, this is not the reality. I'm not losing my mind. This is happening because of X. Okay. And this is why, guys, awareness and understanding and knowledge is your superpower in these moments, because like life is life, okay, and things are going to happen and you're going to be dysregulated. That's life. You're going to get stressed, you're going to get overwhelmed, you're going to get anxious, bad things are going to happen, and you're going to have to deal with them, and that's just part of being a human, okay? But it's so important that when that starts to impact us, our health and our well-being and our mind, and especially our mental health, when that starts to impact us, that we have the awareness to understand what's going on, because then it becomes a little bit less of a holy shit, I am losing my mind, because sometimes the intrusive thoughts that I can have are insane and very scary. And if I didn't, again, have that awareness, I'd be like, I probably need to be locked up somewhere. And it's only having the awareness that I can talk myself down to a level of not scaring myself by these thoughts. I hope that makes sense. Another thing is that it's just really difficult relaxing, being still, finding presence in the present moment. This is a telltale sign that when we are constantly jumping from pillar to post, needing to be constantly busy, constantly doing things, that there is dysregulation in the body. And then there's the physical. It's the gut issues, the migraines, the autoimmune diseases, the rashes, the neck and back tension, the insomnia, the constant lack of energy, fatigue, and brain fog. That is your survival system doing actually what it's designed to do. But unfortunately, we're not designed as humans to live in that response over a long period of time. And as a child of an alcoholic, we live our whole life in that response. Because again, I repeat this over and over, but the environment that we were in was fucking terrifying as a child growing up in that. So Our body is designed to be in this response for a short, snappy period of time. It does its job, it keeps it safe, and then it goes away. But as children of alcoholics, we live in a very unique environment where we don't get a chance to come out of that survival mode. And so that's when we notice that as we move into adulthood, that our life is starting to be controlled by, it kind of feels like this nearly invisible force behind our actions and our behaviors and our health, when really it's your own body doing what it's meant to be doing, but now going against you as you get older. And so, as well as all of these different symptoms that we can get from having an overwhelmed nervous system and being in survival, is also then our inner child showing up. And this is again going back to living that life where it feels like we're showing up as two different people. One day you feel like you're showing up as the mature adult, and the next day you feel like you're acting like a child. Well, that comes back to being in that survival response, being in that environment, having a parent who couldn't keep their shit together, meant that as children, our needs got unmet. But unfortunately, those needs do need to be met at some stage for us to be able to move forward with our lives, because otherwise they continue to show up in ways that we may not even realize. And it could be that you find yourself, if you're having an argument with a partner, and it kind of reflects a little bit of the dynamic of when you were younger with your parent, you might find that you're acting as a child, and you might be like, why the hell am I, as whatever age you are as an adult, showing up, acting like a 7-year-old? Well, it's most likely because you have some sort of unmet need from being a child, and that is being brought up into your life today. So it's this really unique dynamic of you're stuck in survival and all of these things are going on, but your inner child also needs their needs to be met. So it's a very difficult state to function from, and to function optimally and actually move forward and create the life that you want to live. But not a lot of people understand that. It's not until you've lived it, it's not until you've been in it, it's not until you've experienced it and come out the other side, because hindsight is a fantastic thing, that you can actually see really clearly of actually the dynamic that children of alcoholics have to deal with internally. Let's not even talk about the shit that you have to deal with your parent. Okay, park that, because that's a whole different ballgame. But the things that you have to deal with internally, no wonder we struggle so much to keep our shit together and move forward. So how do you move forward? Okay, and the great thing is, it's actually not that complicated. Guys, this is what I tell my clients all the time in our sessions. The work that we are doing here does not have to be complex, expensive, difficult, scary. It's actually very, very simple when you pare it back and you take away all the noise and the bullshit that's out there about what you have to do for healing. Because to be honest, a lot of it is just a load of crap, and a lot of it is very, very unnecessary. And really, to move forward is so much more simpler than you think it is. And healing begins, again, I'm like a broken record, but it begins with awareness. It's noticing, when are your survival patterns showing up in your life? Recognizing, how are they showing up in my mind, in my body, in my relationship? And then acknowledging, these are not flaws. I'm not broken. There's not something wrong with me. These are just a natural response to the environment that I grew up in. So when you have that awareness, when you're able to sit and reflect and be like, yeah, I can see now clearly that I'm able to connect. All right, I was stuck in survival for 25 years. Now I show up and I'm reacting to my partner. I can't have a mature adult conversation when things get heightened. I struggle to express my emotions. I'm dealing with headaches. I'm dealing with a lot of IBS sort of symptoms. Okay, maybe this is because I've been in survival for 25 years. So when you get that knowledge and that awareness, next it's time to start connecting back to your body and to your emotions. When your body feels safe, your mind naturally slows down. And anyone who's done any sort of nervous system regulation work will be able to see that before you started working on your nervous system, your mind was going a million miles an hour, you were overthinking, all of this sort of stuff. And then you started working on your nervous system. You became regulated. And all of a sudden you start to notice my mind is a little bit more quiet today. I'm actually able to gather my thoughts. I'm actually able to think clearly. I'm actually able to notice that when I'm having that overwhelming chatter inside of my mind, that I'm actually able to be like, this is not the reality of my situation. So it's a very big difference of how your mind feels and behaves when you're dysregulated to when you're regulated and balanced. And when the body feels safe, when the chatter in our mind starts to become less and less, it becomes so much easier and less intense to feel the emotions that we need to feel to move forward. I'm going to be super cliche here, but you have to feel to heal. Okay, what you resist persists. And this is the problem. I think when we're doing this healing work and we're going into it, we are doing it from a state of dysregulation. So we're trying to figure out our past and feel our emotions and feel the rage and the anger and the overwhelm and all that sort of stuff. And that's right, we should be doing that. But doing that when the body is still feeling unsafe and when the body is still dysregulated in survival mode makes the experience way more intense and maybe unbearable compared to when you did it if the body is coming from a state of regulation. And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm out of breath. I am 7 months pregnant, and I like the whole struggling to breathe thing is very real. So I really apologize if I'm going through this video sounding like I've run a marathon, because that's what it feels like. But it's so important that when you're going to start feeling your emotions and addressing what needs to be addressed, you're doing it from a state of regulation. And there's some simple body-based exercises that you can do on a daily basis that is really going to allow you to find safety in your body, okay? The first one can be just sitting there with your eyes closed, slowly breathing in and breathing out. And it's super important to remember that keeping your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale is going to signal to the body that it's safe, because it slows down your heart rate. So whether you breathe in for 4 and exhale for 6, and just continue to repeat that over and over again, keeping the eyes closed and trying to just bring the body down the body, bringing the breath down the body and bringing the breath back up the body. The next you can do is some mindful movement. So this is one that I always suggest to my clients. And whether this is like stretching or yoga or whatever that might be, if you have a practice, that's fine. But the most important part is you're connecting the movement to the breath. So whether that is you're in child's pose and you're doing some nice shoulder rolls, keeping the eyes closed, again, connecting the breath in with the body. It's just about tuning in. It doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to look good, doesn't have to be complex. It's all about tuning into the body and connecting the breath back to the body. Or it can be as simple as sitting in a chair, feet on the floor, hands on your thighs, and just doing a simple body scan. Again, bringing your breath up from the bottom, up to the top, and bringing your breath all the way from the top down to the bottom. It really depends on what you like. Find something that you like to do. Don't do something that you're not enjoying. So again, the key components of these exercises are trying to close your eyes if that feels safe. If it doesn't feel safe, that's fine. Keeping the breath long and slow. So slow inhale, long and slow exhale. Remember, exhale to be longer. And then introducing some sort of movement. Introducing some sort of movement where we're connecting the breath back to the body. And this sounds very simple. And this sounds like, okay, yeah, and how is that going to make me come out of survival? How is that going to solve the 25 years of problems that I've had because I've been stuck in survival, Corey? Well, it signals to your body that it's safe. And this safety over time, consistently, is what allows your body to come back to a state of balance. So doing this once is not going to make a difference. It has to be done consistently and put into a practice, something that you can do again and again and again and show up for yourself, whether it's twice a week, 3 times a week, or every day, to help your body find safety on a consistent basis. Because if you think about how long you've been in dysregulation for, doing this for a day or a week is not really going to make much of a difference. It has to be a consistent practice. And what you can do, what you can build into this practice over time, is really asking your inner child, what do they need? So when you're sitting there, eyes closed, tuning in, breath is connected down to the body, start tuning in visualizing yourself as a younger version of yourself. If you can, it can be really helpful to look at a picture of yourself if you really struggle to connect back to that time, and ask yourself, like, what do you need? What do you need now to feel safe? What do you need now to have your needs met? And it takes time, but you will start to develop insights and awareness to understanding what your inner child is really trying to tell you when they're showing up in your lives. And that is when you're triggered or however they're showing up. And so these practices, they seem super simple and probably a little bit too simple where you're like, I don't think they're going to make an impact. I promise you that if you implement these consistently over a period of time, you are going to notice a difference in how overwhelmed you feel, how balanced you feel, how reactive you are. Because think about it, you have not allowed yourself most likely to find any sort of stillness or connect back to yourself ever. So that difference that makes in your life by connecting back to your mind, your body, and your soul is really, really difficult for me to put into words. It's only something that you can experience yourself. And I want you to know this, okay? We're at the end of the video, and this is something I want you to take away. Your pain is not your identity. So remember what I said. All these survival responses, everything that you've learned as a coping mechanism, how your inner child is showing up to get their needs met, that's not who you truly deeply are. That's not your identity. Your identity is not a reactive, anxious, overwhelmed person. That's not you. What happened in your past, yes, it shaped you into the person who you are today. There is no doubt about that. But it's not who you are. It's not who you have to be in your future. The way you're showing up in life, the way you're behaving, how your survival responses are running the show, they can all be understood, unlearned, and transformed into a healthier way to show up in your day-to-day. So if you got to the end of this video, I want you to know that what you're struggling with on a day-to-day basis is not a personal failing. They are survival responses and learned behaviors. But the most amazing thing is they can be changed, and you have the power to change them. If this video resonated with you, if you could relate to what I was saying, I would love to hear your input in the comments. And if you want to continue on this journey with me of healing from having an alcoholic parent, please hit like and subscribe so you can receive more videos like this one.